And we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Tech for Good show. This is Tuesday, February 23rd. I had to think there for a second. It is it's 5 p.m. CET. It is 4 p.m. with Chris there in Ireland. It is
Absolutely.
11 a.m. East Coast. It is 8 a.m. West Coast Americas, and I'm not sure what time it is wherever you are, but I just want to level set the time because sometimes people see the recording of this and leave comments, 2 or 3 days later. And no, this is Tuesday 23rd. If it's not Tuesday the 23rd and you're watching this, you might be watching the recording. Okay, so welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. And we have comments already. Delano is joining us from Brazil. Hello, Delano.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing? Great to
Hello.
join us. My name is Tom Raftery. I work with SAP. I'm a global VP. And my co-host is Chris. Chris, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely, thank you. So my name is Chris Kernaghan. I'm an SAP technical consultant with a large global SI, and I have a deep love and passion for technology and how that can be used to improve our lives. So thank you.
Similarly, and Peter has joined us as well. Hey, Peter, how are you doing? Must be cold where you are, Peter. And so
yes.
Ophel is. Oh, hang on. Let's go into the comments quickly. Boom, gotta press the right button there. So Ophel is joining us from Calgary. So not as sunny as Texas, but close. It's winter wonderland. Oh, very nice. Joining us from Poland. Yeah, I talked to Ophel a few weeks ago, so good to see you there, Ophel. So yourself and Peter are joining us from Canada. So Canada's winning at the moment with two viewers, and Cinda joining us from Paris. Great, we've got some Europeans on as well. Superb. And Bartosz from Poland. Okay, let's head into the stories. We'll come back to the comments in a sec because we got some really cool stories. So the first one, I mean, if we're talking about Tech for Good, this has to be one of the best Tech for Good stories of the decade. It is, I mean, we all, well, many of us will have seen this video already. NASA released this video yesterday. Was it yesterday, Chris? Am I losing track of time?
No, it was yesterday. No, it was yesterday. The actual descent, the video of the parachutes and the heat shield and the sky crane was released yesterday.
Yeah.
So it was,
losing track of time with this lockdown stuff. It just
I know.
days blend into each other. But yeah, I watched it. I watched the press release as they were releasing it. I watched all the explanations. I watched the videos. I listened to the audio, which was superb as well. First audio ever recorded on Mars. It was amazing.
I know.
And
what a time to be alive.
Explanation for why he added microphones to the Perseverance. And the guy explained that he added microphones to the Perseverance because he was at an event talking about the rover and the mission, and this woman came up to him and said, why don't you have microphones on it? You have cameras. And he was like, well, why should I? And she said, my sister is hearing impaired. Or no, my sister is blind, visually challenged. And I can try and describe to her what I see in the images, but it would be so much better if she could hear it and use that to try and imagine it. So he said that really, really stuck with him. And he couldn't remember her name afterwards, but he said that stuck with him. And he made sure that there were microphones on this Perseverance as it went to Mars. So it was amazing hearing the first audio ever recorded on Mars. It wasn't anything dramatic. It was when they played it first, you could hear the buzzing coming from the Perseverance itself, and then the wind blowing gently in the background. And then they stripped out the sound of the Perseverance, and you could hear just the wind blowing. And hearing the wind blowing on another planet, it was just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It is. It's the first. I looked at this earlier on. There were two microphones to go to Venus on the Soviet probes in the 1980s, but they didn't capture anything. It was very staticky and it just wasn't great. And then NASA tried NASA tried in 2008 with the Mars mission, but that actually got canned before takeoff. It actually got taken off the rover. So this is the first audible, sound from another planet, which is just phenomenal. I showed the kids, and the kids just went daft. They went absolutely daft because it just blew their mind. So, but the thing that's interesting, well, one of the things that's interesting, they have, how long has the rover been on Mars so far? I think it's only been a couple of days.
Yeah,
but they have been able to pull 30 gigabytes of data and over 25,000 images of the platform already, and that's that's what I've got out of the article and a couple of others, and you sit and you think, that is a phenomenal amount of data to be pulling over that distance. The bandwidth and the deep space network is just, it's amazing, absolutely amazing.
Stunning. We got some great conversations happening here in the comments as well. Peter saying he hooked up with Ophel, not hooked up, but met up with Ophel, shall we say, over the phone on a call yesterday, thanks to the show. So wow,
excellent.
That's awesome. Yeah, cool. Thomas Doyle, hi from Detroit. Another Canadian, Biljana. God Almighty, how we're very popular in Canada, Chris. I don't know what
we are. Yes.
Good.
Super. It's the Celtic connection. That's what it is.
I guess it is. I saw that the only Gaeltacht in the world outside of Ireland is in Canada. It's in Ontario.
Yep.
For people who don't know, Gaeltacht is an Irish-speaking area. In Ireland, we have, I say we, I don't live in Ireland, but I'm originally Irish. Places where the people speak Irish is called a Gaeltacht. We have a language called Irish, very different to English, completely different language. It's about 5,000 years older as a language than Latin, for example. It's a very old language. So anyway, we digress. Peter's saying, so no, take me to your leader, huh? Apparently,
do you know what? I saw a really, really good photograph or a cartoon the other day, and it was basically just these two Martians holding a panoramic picture in front of the rover, and every time it moved, they kept walking with this. And in the background, you can see these big cities, Captain Scarlet and the Mistron type cities. Oh, it was just hilarious. Very funny. Brilliant. Very, very funny.
Brilliant. Oh man, it's been an exciting one. I watched the video, as I said, and seeing they did a beautiful side by side shot of the parachute deploying, one at real speed and one at a 30x slowdown. And when you watch it in the slowdown and you see it kind of billowing out and all the bits kind of, the shielding breaking off and flying away. And then you hear them talking about the speed it's going, the speed dropping. And the whole thing was just spectacular. I mean, wow, the engineering that went into it, there were so many things and so many things that could have gone wrong. I mean, holy crap.
Oh, yeah. But you talk about the speed going down, and this is the interesting thing, because the atmosphere on Mars is so thin, the speed doesn't drop as precipitously as it would do on Earth, and that's one of the reasons why they need the sky crane, because it's so that speed deceleration is really, really hard to quantify or really hard to get right. But the whole way through, and you hear the speed going down, you think that's not going down particularly quickly. It's still measured in I know, Peter, 100 feet per second is insane. But yeah, it is just fabulous. So it is absolutely amazing. And one of the great things that's actually that I've seen a lot of recently is, people asking the question, we have all these challenges on Earth. Why are we spending all this money to go to Mars and things like that there? And what the answers that come back and on what the benefits of these programs actually are, going back in the industry, coming into our real lives and things like that, seeing these things is phenomenal as well.
Yeah.
Just being reminded of what these things do.
Irish is still. Adrian is talking about Irish. Yeah, it's still being taught in schools. It's probably
Yeah.
still mandatory. It was mandatory certainly when
Yeah.
I was there, and you have to do it for the leaving cert. And you have to pass Irish to get into university. Most of the universities in Ireland, and Montreal hosts the longest running St. Patrick's Day parade in North America. Wow, cool! I didn't know that. And I was in Montreal last year before the shutdown. It was one of the last places I visited, and it was -18. Bloody freezing.
Wow. And let's remember that's Celsius, not Fahrenheit. We work in real money here.
Exactly. And Anton, I think that's Anton, I like green, saying the engines that brought the rover to space were Russian ones.
Didn't know.
Didn't
Well,
know
yeah.
that
Depends who launched. So, but yeah, I'm not actually disagreeing with the statement. I'm just trying to work through who would have actually launched, because the rover was launched. What was it, 9 months ago? More than that, it would have been,
about
because
that.
it was a
Last year sometime.
interesting, fascinating.
On a warm day, then -18 was a warm day. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. We'll move on to the next story. We have a few stories from the transportation field, as is want on this show, because I have a little love of transportation, and it's also because transportation is being massively disrupted at the moment. You've got the CASE, they're called the CASE megatrends, where CASE stands for connected, autonomous, shared, and electric. There are 4 global megatrends that are completely disrupting transportation right now. Yeah, it's an industry, that's fascinating to watch. I love disruption, and that's one that's really being disrupted. If you are an old school automotive manufacturer, you're worried right now, because so much disruption is going on there. But I thought this was an interesting one to start with. France has introduced an SUV tax to curb the sales of heavier cars. So if you have a car that's over, I think it's 1,800 kilos, then it's liable for the tax. And that's a lot of cars, particularly, it's not just SUVs, but electric vehicles as well. A lot of EVs, because of the weight of the battery, would actually fall into this bracket. And I think depending on the size of the battery, even the ID3 might fall in there.
Let me check.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a bad thing per se, particularly for petrol and diesel SUVs. Yep, the ID3.
It would add, either, if it's 10 euros per additional kilo, the base ID3 would add 50 euros. My car, a BMW 520d Touring, would be an extra minimum of 550. If it was the base model. For the X-Drive, that would be an extra 1,200 euros. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's, and I have to say, particularly in the petrol and diesel versions, I think this is a good idea, because, they consume that much more fuel, they do that much more, they cause that much more pollution. Even in EVs, it's not that bad a thing. I mean, we're seeing lots of EVs come out, the likes of the I-Pace, which has been out a while now, the Model Y, the EQC from Mercedes, the ID4 from Volkswagen, the Polestar 2, the Skoda Enyaq, which is just a rebadged ID4, etc. And Brenton is saying there in the comments that they do more damage to roads as well. That's true. But they also consume more energy. And if you look even at the watt hours per kilometer, you can see, for example, the ID3 does around, I think it's 13 watt hours per kilometer, whereas the ID4 is 20. Around how you drive it, but it's significantly more. It's a bigger car, and it's pushing more air out of the way, so it's not that surprising. So I can understand the logic behind this.
I can. It depends where the money's going to end up. and that's and I think that needs to be not so much quantified, but give people an idea where the tax is actually going to go. The tax is going to go somewhere that is going to be beneficial to directly to either meeting the Paris climate change, or to education or health or something like that. Then that's going to take a bit of the sting out of this. So it will.
It's a very good point. Anton has come back and said that the engines that took the Perseverance up were ULA Atlas V engines with P&W. I presume that's Pratt & Whitney with Energomash from Moscow. So did not know that. Cool. Interesting to know, Anton. Thanks for that. Victor Martinez is saying, hola, good afternoon, everyone. So that's nice. Victor, are you in Madrid, Victor? Brenton, yeah, we've mentioned that. Peter is saying, but those are not SUVs. That is a specific car type, may not apply to a standard car.
No, it does. Because they mentioned that it applies to, it does apply to all cars, because they reference the BMW 5 Series in the A6 in the piece.
It's just by weight. They call out SUVs in the title as kind of a clickbait thing, but it's actually just by weight. But it never does. Governments love the added revenues. I'm not sure. To that point, I spoke to Lucas Joppa a few weeks back. He's the Chief Environmental Officer of Microsoft, and I had him on the Climate 21 podcast. Phenomenal episode. If you've not listened to it, go and hunt it down. Google Climate 21, Lucas Joppa, you'll find it there. One of the things that he mentioned in that podcast that Microsoft did was back in 2012, right? 2012, we're talking, 9 years ago now. Back in 2012, Microsoft rolled out an internal carbon fee. So if you're doing anything within Microsoft that required a budget, you had to pony up the money for the budget, but you also had to pony up money for the carbon implication of whatever it was you were doing. And that money, to Chris's point, that money went to the sustainability organization within Microsoft, Lucas Joppa's organization. So he was getting in all this money, and they've used that money, they've ring-fenced that money for doing things like purchasing green energy, they've put out an RFP now for 1 million tons of carbon. They've set up a venture fund with $1 billion with a B to help companies create carbon sequestration technologies. And the reason they've done that is they want to go carbon negative, and they want to remove from the atmosphere all the CO2 that they've ever emitted since they started operations in 1975. And to do that, they need to seed the marketplace with demand, hence the RFP for 1 million tons of carbon, and also help companies get investment in the technologies and how to actually do it. So really, really fascinating. So Victor saying he is in Madrid. Hola, ¿qué tal? I'm in Sevilla. I'm sure we'll gain some fans saying this, but hear me out. It would be interesting for electric car makers to invest in oil and gas, since there's plenty of lithium. Oh dear. There's plenty of lithium to maximize the life cycle of the wells. There's no shortage of lithium, Ophel. It's like the 4th or 5th most common element on the planet. We don't need to be getting it from wells. There's plenty of mines we can get it from quite efficiently and environmentally safely, if that's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
And Peter, you're right, it is clickbait on the heading. That's true. Adrian is saying it's the same in Ireland. It's called a road tax, and it depends on the type of car you drive. Yeah. Is the road tax in Ireland? I know there's a road. Is that related to vehicle weight? Do you know, Chris?
So for example, the road tax in the UK at the moment is calculated based upon the carbon emissions, or the emissions profile of the actual car. So my car, for example.
It used to be like that in the Republic as well. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
now.
but I don't know what it is at the moment. I assumed that it was still something relatively similar. So I can have a look.
Martha's commenting on the Microsoft thing that they're extending this carbon tax to suppliers. That's true. And Lucas mentioned that in the podcast as well. Still paid from Microsoft Teams, but encourages their internal teams to work with carbon-free providers and partners. And in fact, to Martha's point, they're rolling it out slowly, that requirement, to their suppliers. And what they're doing is they're helping their suppliers. They're working with the suppliers to educate them on how best to calculate and report those emissions. Brendan says no.
Yeah, I've just got it here. So it's CO2 engine capacity and unladen weight. So those are the ones. Although unladen weights for commercial vehicles. So it is. So yeah.
Okay. Peter saw a great short video yesterday to highlight the top 4 heading. Yeah.
I can think of those adjectives, but I couldn't say it out loud, so I couldn't. This is a family show.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Clickbait. It's infuriating. Anyway, we'll move on. Corporate news. I thought this was cool. This is actually taken from the website of Vauxhall. Vauxhall are, for people who are unaware, they're a vehicle manufacturer. But
GM.
They're GM. Yeah, they're owned by GM, like Opel as well. They're another brand under that umbrella.
Yep.
British Gas have made the largest commercial electric vehicle order with Vauxhall, and they've committed to accelerating the electrification of their fleet. Now, this is notable, because it's British Gas, who have one of the largest fleets of vehicles in the UK, but they've committed to making that fleet entirely electric by 2025. So in the next 4 years, they're going to completely change out their fleet and make them electric. So that's one reason it's notable. The second reason it's notable is it's British Gas.
Yeah.
This is a fossil fuel company. Now, I know they're getting into other areas than fossil fuels, but this is a traditional fossil fuel company, with one of the biggest fossil fuel emissions profiles of any company, on the planet. I know there are more Shell and BP, and those would have more, but they're still well up there. So having them committing to A, swap out all their vehicles for electric, and B, do it by 2025. I mean, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
There's something else in this as well. They are committing to putting proper charging points into the engineer's home. So each van is linked to an engineer. Okay, right. To do their work. So they're also committing to putting in the fast charging points, or the more robust charging points into their engineers' homes as well. So that's a second investment into this program as well.
Yeah, it is, because, I mean, people who know me will know I drive an EV and I have a charger here at home. In fact, I have a 7 kilowatt charger.
Yeah.
But I don't use it very often, because I also have a standard wall plug in the garage that I can plug the car into. It's a standard 2 kilowatt plug, the same one you plug a fridge or a dryer or a hair dryer or anything into, standard desk lamp. And that's fine. That charges the car at 2 kilowatts, dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum. 5% of the battery per hour, but if you have it plugged in overnight, it's more than enough. So that works fine. But for a lot of people, if they're doing more mileage per day than that, having a 7 kilowatt or an 11 kilowatt charger or whatever it is in the home means that the vehicles will only ever need to be charged in the engineer's home at night, and then they wake up to a full tank the following morning. So it is absolutely spectacular, and it speaks to a demand. And I've mentioned on this show before that the flip to EVs versus internal combustion engine vehicles is going to happen faster in the commercial fleet sector than in the private one, and it's for reasons of economics. It's because it's cheaper to fuel them, and it's cheaper to maintain them, and maintenance and fuel are the two biggest costs for fleet managers. So if you can slash those costs, the fleet managers are going to jump at it. And you can see a perfect example of that here with British Gas, and you'll see others do the same. We see it already in the fleets of buses. The global bus fleet is going fully electric. In 2020, 33% of new buses sold in 2020 were fully electric buses. So they've already gone well ahead of private cars. Private cars in 2020 were 4.2% globally. They were 10% in Europe, 5% in the US. I can't remember what they were elsewhere. But that 10% in Europe is going to go to 15% this year. But things like taxi fleets, last mile delivery vehicles, all these kind of things are going to go faster than private cars.
Yeah. The other thing that they're doing with this is actually they're using it to kickstart another apprenticeship program. So as well as taking these cars on and stuff like that, they're creating 1,000 new engineering apprenticeships to as part of the EV engineer workforce.
Yeah.
That really is a story that is brilliant on 3 different fronts.
Yeah.
So it is. Oh yeah, absolutely, and it's it's brilliant. Love it, love it.
Peter's talking about Facebook reversing its Australian news ban. Yeah, I just throw my head up or my eyes up in my head when I see anything about this Facebook, and just annoys me. I deleted my Facebook account a good while ago, and I haven't gone back, and I haven't missed it. In fact,
I think it was about 3 years ago. It was about 3 years ago. You did it.
Probably,
so,
it's probably about that. A lot of that was down to US politics, and some of that stuff just kept coming up in my feed and really annoying me. So I just stopped using Facebook, suspended my account, eventually deleted my account, never missed it, and felt so much happier afterwards. So, oh dear God. Moscow is going to replace 100% of its buses to electric in 2 years. Oh wow, that's amazing. I hadn't realized that, Anton. Thanks for letting us know.
And that's not exactly small. Let's remember, the public transport systems in Moscow is pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
I was there with Anton about 2 years ago. Almost 2 years ago now, I think it was. And we went on the underground, and some of those underground stations are just stunning. The artwork and the ceilings and everything, it's just absolutely amazing. And we went on a couple of buses too. The buses were diesel. I don't know if the underground in Moscow is electric. Maybe Anton will jump in and educate us on that. Peter saying this truly needs to be repeated. Yeah, it does. Europe is leap years ahead of the rest of the world for some things. We're not leap years ahead of the world in terms of vaccination rollouts, but that's another story.
No, sorry, we'll have you beaten there. We do have you beaten there. Well, no. So there are many. We both used to travel extensively, and the public transportation systems I tend to rank around the world in terms of sort of the beauty of it and things like that there, but also the weirdo ratio, if you will, and just in terms of general safety and that sort of thing. And I have to say that Paris definitely ranks up there with a very high passenger to weirdo ratio. So, but some of the stations are beautiful, are absolutely fabulous. As you travel around the world, Madrid's underground system is very efficient, but you have to take lots of different hops. You have to change a lot.
That's true.
Barcelona, I don't like the metro stations. I never feel. I just never really liked it. London, I can get around easily. New York, again. There's some really interesting things you can see in the New York Underground, but I've never been to Moscow, so I haven't. So it's one that I would have to try. But I definitely sort of rank it in terms of ease of getting around, the stations, and then the passenger to weirdo ratio. But Paris is way up there. Paris, I think, is the highest passenger to weirdo ratio. But I still love it. Definitely.
Yeah, no, the as I said, the stations in Moscow were spectacular. And Anton is saying there the metro is 100% electric historically, and new trains are extremely energy efficient. So that's great to hear. And Peter's saying that we're ahead of Canada in vaccines. He's betting. I wouldn't be too sure about that. I haven't checked the data. I'll have to check the Our World in Data vaccine information and see. I wouldn't be surprised if Canada. I think we're at 6 point something percent in Europe, depending on country.
Canada's actually really, really far behind on the global vaccination rates. They are hugely behind. Yeah, I saw it last night. So it did on Reddit, and yes, it's on Reddit, so it may or may not be accurate. But it was one of the things that I was really quite stunned about. So yeah, something to dig into.
That's a pity. Okay, well, maybe we are ahead of you, Peter. So this was this story. Is in the Benchmark Mineral Intelligence website, and it's absolutely amazing. Tesla are building a lithium hydroxide refinery in Texas to feed its Terra factory, and obviously they're saying they're the first automaker to enter lithium. And this is a really long, really detailed article. Google it just by the heading, you'll find it. It goes into spectacular detail. And, you know, they talk about how because when they set up the Gigafactory, they were the first automaker to create the Gigafactory. And so they could essentially, when they set up the Gigafactory, they rated it for 35 gigawatt hours of energy per year. And at the time, the global market was 13 gigawatt hours per year. So, you know, they built a factory to supply 3 times the global demand at the time. And it meant that they could essentially set the pricing for their suppliers, because, you know, they went from being not in the market to dominating the market, you know, just I won't say overnight, but, you know, it took them a year to build a factory, and pretty much from there on out. So now they're going further down the stack to buy the what's the word that they use for the lithium rock that they turn into lithium hydroxide? I've forgotten what I read it.
Spodumene or
something like that. Yeah. So now they're going down the stack further to buy rock lithium to convert it themselves into lithium hydroxide, so that they can secure the supply chain and that they can make sure that they do it in the most efficient manner possible, getting the best price possible. And spodumene, there you go. They mentioned in the battery day that Tesla mentioned in their battery day last September that they were going to do this, and that it would mean they would be able to save something like 30% on the price of the batteries from this step alone. You know, just
Jesus,
outstanding, absolutely outstanding stuff. Yeah. So this is, the breadth of the ambition and the. I don't know. It leaves me, you know, struggling for words to describe.
It really does, honestly. It's look at the end of the day, you know, it's you know, when I first read it, okay, the thing that came to my head was, you know, they're controlling their supply chain.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, this is one of the things that helped Apple become the company that it is that relentless and absolute passion and attention to detail on their supply chain. And it's the same with Amazon and companies like that. And you see them taking more and more ownership and more control of the supply chain, which means that, you know, they can do more at better cost efficiencies. But and this is the biggest but, is what they're not only betting on that, but they're also betting on the fact that the lithium technology is still going to remain to be the primary or the best the best electrolyte for storage medium for batteries, because once they've made that investment, they are not going to shift that for, you know, another 10 years. So they can depreciate the plant itself. And I you know, arguably, you know, lithium at the moment does have the highest energy density and, you know, commercialization, and it is able to be manufactured at scale. But there are a number of technologies that are coming up behind them, in terms of that could actually supplant it. But at the end of the day, achieving a 30% saving on your battery, even if you only pass half of that to the customer in the end price of the car, that is a substantial commercial advantage.
It is. I mean,
so
just to your point, owning as much of the supply chain as they do now already gives them a huge advantage over the incumbents. It's amazing. Victor is saying he doesn't know why trams are not more popular in Spain. I would suspect it's down to the tram experience, that and the infrastructure itself. I live in Sevilla, as I said, in Seville. There is an internal tram overground within the city, which goes about 3 kilometers at most, and then there's an underground one, a single line from one side of the city to the other. So the infrastructure isn't there. Davin is saying everyone's ahead of Canada. So, sorry to hear that, Devin. I wasn't aware. We've barely done 1 million doses. I think we're at 1.3 million in Canada now. Oh dear, that's yeah. Well, there's not that many done in Ireland, but then again, Ireland is a country of 4 million people. They've done 6% of them, so it's like, oh dear God, really. Our leaders are pathetic on that front. Yeah, I think we can say that about a lot of countries, Peter. Davin says he thinks he's slated to be vaccinated in September. I wouldn't be surprised if it took until September.
No. You need to read the next. You need to read the next one, 2031.
Okay. You might have got me there. Yeah, fair enough. Pedro saying hard rock sputamine. Yeah, there we go. That's it. That's the name of it. Okay, we'll move on. And the next story is from Health, and it's to this very point we're talking about. It's about the vaccines. And this Pfizer-BioNTech story coming out of Israel shows that the vaccine is stopping the spread of COVID. Essentially, they've looked at the data from, I think it's 600,000 people who have been vaccinated. They have 2 groups, and the data is extremely positive. Israel, the last time I checked, and that's about a week ago, they were at over 70% of the population vaccinated. So, they're probably at 80% or so now. So, that's where the public health officials were saying we needed to be at for herd immunity to kick in. And they've got it now with vaccinations. So, spectacular. Yeah. And the fact that the people who have been vaccinated are not actually getting infected. I think that something like they got 4 hospitalizations out of 600,000 people vaccinated or something like that. So
nice.
It has been shown to be unbelievably effective, north of 94%. So that, just absolutely stunning.
Yeah. No, it's it has been fascinating, and this is one of the things. This we talked about what we got out of this the Perseverance rover and that sort of thing. But one of the things that will be extremely interesting from this is actually the epidemiological lessons that will actually come out of this, and the usefulness and the training of models. It is extremely sad, and you can't forget the fact that the US is at 500,000 deaths, and globally we're over, I think it's 1.4, 1.5, and those are horrible numbers. But the data that comes out of this will actually help to inform public policy, emergency planning, all those sorts of things in the future. Well, yes, you would hope so. You would hope so. Well, no. The lessons can be published. Whether they actually enact the lessons, the learnings from the lessons, is a different thing. But there will be plenty of scholarly articles and stuff like that that'll be dry and all the rest of it. But there is a massive amount of data that will come out of this, and hopefully that can then be used to benefit and stop this or reduce these things happening, reduce the impact.
Agreed. The other big thing to take away from this is people have been working on messenger RNA vaccines for 30 or more years,
Yeah.
and they've never brought them to market, and suddenly they got the kick in the ass necessary, or they got the burning platform that was necessary to get them out, and they're going to make a huge change to the world of public health, because they are a way of delivering a vaccine, a completely new way of delivering a vaccine that can be quickly rewritten for new types of viruses that emerge. So, it means that we should be able to overcome other pandemics if it happens again faster, because we should be able to roll out the vaccines faster, and we can start using this technology to hit other illnesses that are already there that there hasn't been a vaccine for previously.
Yeah, I think we did a story, it was either last week or 2 weeks ago. So if you go back through the show notes, you can actually see a better breakdown of how the mRNA vaccines were, the process. And there's a really fascinating bit about information, and that was a big part of the challenge that they had to get over in the article.
Yeah, and Peter's saying that Montreal is building a public transport project right now, a light rail network, to make it much easier to move around the city. 26 stations, 67 kilometers of tracks across Greater Montreal. That sounds fantastic. Where there's a will, there's a way, and let's not overlook the substantial money provided by the governments to the research laboratories. I almost see us getting booster shots indefinitely the way we do for flu. Yeah, I think that's likely too.
Are they actually booster shots, or just rechargeable batteries to top up the chip implants?
Don't go there, for God's sake, man.
Oh dear.
Sorry, I just couldn't resist. I could not resist. I do apologize.
So the chips can call home to Bill, huh?
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, yes, the next one.
From the energy space, we got a couple of interesting ones as well. Vestas have invested in a company that's making wind turbines out of wood. And
yes,
I thought that was fascinating. It's lighter and stronger than steel. It is, renewable. Essentially,
yep.
And there's, I think, a 70% reduction in CO2 emissions in the manufacture of towers made by wood as opposed to steel. Steel, obviously, you require massive amounts of heat to create steel. The smelting of steel is a huge contributor to emissions. So having ones made from wood would be sorry would, you would imagine, be significantly better. So hence Vestas are investing in this company. It's still early days. They erected their first wood tower in, I think it was Sweden, about a year ago now, and Vestas have seen that and have put some money into them. So this could be a thing moving forward. Sorry, Simon is saying the flu is gone.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
We'll leave that.
This has just been renamed COVID-19. Oh dear.
So I actually really like this one, because and it will come on later on in one of the later stories about wood and reforestation and things like that. But one of the challenges I do have at the moment is the decommissioning of the structures of the wind turbines.
Yeah.
And especially for onshore, not so much offshore, because the wood just would not work offshore. But certainly for onshore ones, there is an environmental footprint to actually having them in or decommissioning them, and this would actually make it probably more sustainable or reduce that impact footprint. So
Yeah,
that's actually pretty cool.
it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, we'll move on to the next one, and we're back with Tesla again, and we'll fly over this one quickly. Sorry.
Yeah.
So this is the new Tesla battery plant being built in Moss's Landing in the US, and it's
California.
It's just a flyover of the Megapack batteries that are being rolled out there. And if you see those little white squares there, each of those is a single Megapack. They're container-sized batteries, essentially. And there's 132 of them being put in there. And they are supposed to initially be at about 700 megawatts, going up to 1.1 gigawatts in time. So essentially the world's largest battery plant is being built there, and it's one of 4 that are being built there. So it's, the scale of this is off the charts, and it's in large part down to the regulations in California around getting to zero emissions. It's pushing a lot of this stuff, and air quality, and it's shutting down. It's not shutting down. It's being built instead of a gas plant that was initially supposed to be built there, but the California Public Utilities Commission said, nope, don't build a gas plant, put a battery plant in there instead. So that's what they're going and doing. It's going to save them something like $100 million over the next 20 years, this battery plant, over and above putting in a gas plant. And so it will be, I think, more and more the norm to do this over time. So it's going to be fascinating to watch the development. This as well, because of the scale of it, will drive down battery costs even more, which will benefit any of us who are buying EVs. So, lots of good coming out of this. Okay, Simon is saying there's BBC reporting no cases of flu in the UK, and Peter saying, not sure if that's accurate. So I don't know. I didn't see the report, Simon, on the BBC. I'm guessing if there are reduced numbers of people with the flu in the UK, a lot of it could be down to the fact that there's a pandemic out there and people are being a little more careful with their sneezing and passing germs around, and they're not going out and mixing with other people as much as they would, which would account for a big drop in the number. And Peter's saying same for Canada. Okay, it is COVID or flu, thinking must be flu masked by COVID. I'd say it's more down to the fact that people are being more sanitary, essentially, not going out as much, and wearing masks and all that kind of thing. I'd say that has a big effect on the numbers of people out there with the flu. Okay, so next story. China's doubling its renewable capacity in 2020 and still building thermal plants. So yeah, let me call up the chart there, because I pulled this chart from the story, and you can see the wind and solar energy in 2020 in China are the blue and yellow lines there. Hydro is green, and the red is thermal, so gas and coal. Now, the gas and coal have stayed, reasonably constant over the last 10 years. Whereas if you look at the wind and the solar, the hydro stayed much or the same as well. But if you look at the wind and the solar, they've gone way up. They were at 10 gigawatts, between 10 and 20 gigawatts in 2010. And in 2020, wind came in at almost 72 gigawatts, and solar came in at 47, I think it was, or 48 gigawatts. And thermal came in at less than 60. So right there, the trend you can see is for the solar and the wind to go up and up. And as we mentioned in one of the shows last week or the week before, China are now mandating from all their regions that they source 40% of their energy from renewables. So that's going to send the thermal down, and it's going to send the solar and wind up even more. So, you know, it's and their commitment, China's commitment to being net zero by 2060 will also have similar implications. And those curves going upwards for wind and solar, again, because of the scale of it, you know, 72 gigawatts from wind alone in 2020 in China, just that alone will drive down global prices for wind and solar, because again, you've got the experience curve and economies of scale. So it's great news for everyone, even if only for the economics of it. It's pretty spectacular.
Tom, I need to drop for a second. I just need to do something. I will be right back. Apologies.
No problem. No problem. So I see Peter there saying, in week 2, laboratory detections continue to decline sharply from the previous week, confirming that the flu season reached peak levels in December. So week 52. Overall, the Central and Eastern regions are reporting higher levels of flu activity than the rest of the country. Interesting. Any reasons why, Peter? Ophel is saying, I think it's contact tracing that's a variable in those numbers. Okay. Being 3 weeks behind in data is not currently accurate. Sorry. But government must have a process to mitigate that. Well, at least in Canada. Okay, sure. And Peter's saying, we better not hear a crying child when Chris gets back. Nice one. Okay, so that's great news out of China. And they have a lot of coal plants in planning, and I think a lot of those are never going to see beyond planning stage. There's this great story as well saying that getting to net zero, this is a US story. So the analysis there says that getting to net zero, even net negative, is actually surprisingly feasible and affordable. So this is a new study coming out of the Lawrence Livermore laboratories, as far as I remember. And it says that, you know, it's not going to be that hard for the US to become carbon neutral by 2050. So spectacular news even there again. And that brings us into, did I skip one? Go back. No, I didn't. Okay. Brings us into stories around carbon. And there is this cool story here telling us that a former CEO of Reddit is turning arid land into robust forests and doing it in an open source way. So they've this guy has created this company called Terra Formation, and he has rolled out the technology to take bracken water, salt water, desalinate it using solar, and use that to irrigate arid, dry, desertified regions to plant trees there. His aim is to plant 1 trillion trees, and he wants to do it in the next 10 years so that by 30 years' time, those trees will have matured and will be sucking carbon back out of the air. He's making the plans available online for anyone to copy, and he's encouraging people to copy the technologies he's developed to do it. So, you know, amazing story there. I would go over at this point and ask Chris what he thinks, but things have gone dark in the Kernaghan household. Okay, we'll move on, and we're at the finally stage. So Chris is about to miss out. I have a hard stop anyway because I have a podcast to record in 5 minutes. So the last few weeks, every second Wednesday, I have been doing one of these designed to operate live shows. They go out on Wednesdays, I did a very fun one last week with my colleague David Vallejo, and that was about using planning as a critical part of a resilient, sustainable supply chain. The next one, they go out every second Wednesday. So the next one is on not tomorrow, but on Wednesday, March the 3rd. And it is on manufacturing as a critical part of a resilient, sustainable supply chain. And it will be with my colleague, Michael Lackey. The one that we did last week with David Vallejo, it was superb, spectacular fun. That's had 2,700 views so far. The number of comments that was in that was about 140 or 150 comments in that. Most of them live as we were going on. The questions were fantastic from the people who were watching. So the one that's going out next Wednesday, March 3rd, with Mike Lackey should be spectacular as well. I had Mike on the Digital Supply Chain podcast 2-3 weeks ago, and we talked about manufacturing there as well. So if you want a primer for this, go back and listen to that episode of the Digital Supply Chain podcast. If you have any questions from listening to that, or you have any questions anyway about manufacturing, come along and join in this live stream. As I say, you can see the times there. It is Wednesday, March 3rd, same time as this. So 5 p.m. CET, 8 Pacific, 11 Eastern, 4 Ireland, UK. And join in and, listen in, throw questions in, throw snark in. I had a great time with David. I caught him out with a joke at the start. And I did the same to the 2 weeks before with the previous one with Keith Zabat. So I'll see if I can catch Mike with a joke at the start of this one as well. Okay. I think that's it. What's happening in the comments? Take a quick peek in there. Eastern regions are typically colder, so they're more susceptible to the flu season. Okay, that hadn't occurred to me. I would have assumed, wrongly obviously, but I would have assumed that the deeper the cold, the more the virus, the more inactive the virus would have been. Another great hour, Tom. Thanks very much, Peter. Appreciate the insights and takes on the top stories. Lovely. That's very nice to hear. And yeah, it's been fun. So I think with that, oh, wait, hang on. Anton is coming back in there as well, saying a movie to watch. Oh, you had a comment earlier, Anton, asking about a movie, I think, that I missed. Advice on a good Irish-British movie to watch on Netflix. I don't know. I don't watch many movies on Netflix, I'm afraid. The Queen's Gambit is a good series to watch if you haven't seen it. I can't think of anything else. Oh, Aufel has a comment there as well. There's another initiative here in Alberta similar to rewilding forest and converting that into agricultural. However, the primary focus is land that environmentalists known can't be used for agriculture. Right, that's similar, Aufel, to the Terra Formation, because they're using desert there, which can't be used for agriculture. It's meant to offset carbon emission projects by planting trees and rejuvenating the forest, and you've left a link there for that. Very good, thank you. Oh, Peter's giving a recommendation there, Anton. He loved London Falling. And Aufel is saying Irishman on Netflix. Irishman, is that the 3-hour movie with who is it? I've forgotten. Next time, try and finish the stream with good advice. Oh dear, thanks, Anton. If I can't give you good advice, then the other people watching the stream can give you good advice. You've got it there, Anton. You've got Irishman and London Falling. So, okay, you're obviously not a fan of the Queen's Gambit. Sorry about that. Okay. All right, folks, that's been great. We'll wrap it up. Thanks a million for your attention, your interest, your comments. It's been great fun as always, and we'll be back next week. So we shall see you all then. Same time, same bat channel. Have a good one.